Every time I tell someone that my Lexus LS400 back here has 427,000 miles, they find it hard to believe, which might leave you wondering, what is it like to own a 427,000 mile Lexus LS400? Well, I can answer that in 2 words. Believe it or not, it is life-changing. This car has completely changed my perspective on cars and car brands in general, especially Toyota. Because if you don't know, Toyota makes Lexus, and this car was engineered by Toyota, and it absolutely amazes me. As you can see, this car looks pretty clean from what you can tell. Hopefully it's unlocked here. Nope, it'll be on the other side. The interior definitely has signs of wear, but for 427,000 miles, I mean, you cannot complain about how clean this car still is. The seat's got, you know, signs of wear and tear. I've put a new armrest on it, but if you just take a look at it, I mean, there's LS400s with like 150,000 miles that look 10 times worse than this one. And if you don't believe me, I will show you the odometer right now. I'll put the key in it. Might have to start it up here, but don't mind hearing that startup, but there you can see 427,635 miles. So now that you know that I'm not lying, I will tell you the story on how I got this car, how much I got it for, and what all it needed when I got it, which is really not that much considering how many miles that this car has, and what my ownership experience has been like. If you follow my channel, you know that I make videos on my Ford Focus ST, which is where I started, and then I kind of wanted a rear-wheel drive car. I was kind of getting bored with that one, which I've kind of got some more ideas for it now. But I was just kind of driving around my neighborhood, and I always noticed that there was this white LS400 there. Obviously, it didn't look like this. It had the stock wheels, stock suspension, but it had been sitting in this driveway. Didn't look like it had moved, and it had been there for, I don't know, several years. I never really noticed, never saw it driving or anything like that, but you know, it looked clean from the outside, and I kind of started researching LS400s, kind of got to know more about the engines and how much money that Lexus spent engineering this engine, and that it was Lexus's first car that they debuted the brand with, that Toyota had this idea to create Lexus, and this was their flagship model. They developed the 1UZ FE, which has got to be one of the best, most reliable engines ever made, because this car is definitely a testament to that. And this is like the second generation. This is a 1995. The first one looks a little bit different, but this is my favorite one. I love the front, how the grille. The front one's a little too boxy, but I love how this one looks with just the rounded lights and just how the grille looks. And I also like how the backlights look a little bit more than the first and second gen, just because these ones are a little bit shorter than the first gen, and they kind of have this more space here, which I just like better. And then, you know, the interiors are relatively the same. But back to the story on how I got this. It was down the street, and I started really liking LS400s, and I saw like some cool drift builds online and some cool people like lowering them, and I just saw some cool builds, started looking around on Facebook Marketplace. I looked at some LS430s, and I guess this was kind of before I noticed that this one was down the street. Like, I knew it was there, but it just really didn't hit me until I actually went through with trying to get this one. But you know, I made a few offers on some, never really ended up getting one. But I thought it'd be a cool car to own as a daily, and I wanted a rear-wheel drive car to kind of mess around with, doing like burnouts and drifting, just do like a small little build with it or whatever. And I noticed this one down the street, and it had been sitting in the driveway, had to move, sitting under a tree, covered in sap, all that. And what I did is I just wrote a note and left it in their mailbox. It was like, hey, I noticed your Lexus LS400 sitting outside. I'm interested in buying it if it's for sale, and I left my phone number. And maybe like 2 or 3 days later, I got a text, and it was just a huge long text about everything about this car. I mean, the guy said, yes, it is for sale, and he just gave me every little last bit of information about it. But the thing that, like, I saw it, and as soon as I read this, I was like, I need this car. It had 426,000 miles, and I was like, that is insane with how clean it is. And he did note that it did have a few issues, which have since been fixed for the most part. But I was like, that is super high mileage, and if this car is in decent condition, then I definitely want to buy it, because that's just crazy to own. So I went and looked at it. The car was a lot cleaner than I was thinking it was going to be, and he told me everything that was wrong with it. It had a misfire, and you know, like the center console thing was like coming apart. I just put some new leather over that. I got it on eBay for like 20 bucks, and put some seat patches on there, and the misfire, which was the first thing that I started diagnosing, which it was just down the street, so it was super easy to get home after I bought it. But I guess I should probably stop skipping ahead in the story. We talked about it. I looked it up on Kelley Blue Book, and I was like, hey, let's see what it offers. I can just use that to negotiate. And we ended up agreeing on a price of $550 for this. Bought it, got the title transferred over. He was super transparent about the car, and that actually had some cool stories behind it too. He had used this car to chauffeur, and Jerry Springer, George Lopez, and Cheech and Chong have actually been in the back of this exact car whenever they came, whenever they were local to us, and this guy chauffeured them in this car, which is pretty crazy. And I'm the third owner. The first owner was the wife of a doctor, and the second owner was the guy I bought it from, who just daily drove it for years, and I guess somehow racked up this many miles on it. But after I bought it, got it home, and I was like, yeah, well, I scanned it for codes. All it had was the misfire code, and I just kind of got started on that. First thing I did was I replaced the spark plugs, and believe it or not, this 426,000 mile 1UZ had the original Denso spark plugs in it from 1995, which is absolutely crazy. Some of them were pretty gunked up too, and that actually did not solve the misfire. I swapped out spark plugs for some new NGK Iridium spark plugs, got them all gapped right and everything, and that did not change one thing. So the spark plugs weren't even the issue, which absolutely, like, that just bewilders me. But beyond that, I just replaced the plug wires, and after I put new plug wires in it, it ran smoothly, no misfires at all. Now it has no codes. Now it does have a code for the O2 sensors, but the guy let me know that there was the O2 sensors were bad, but he kind of like bypassed them or something. Whatever, it doesn't really affect how the car runs. And that's all that it really needed. Some other things I did put a new transmission mount in it. I put some coilovers on it, and then these IS250 wheels. And that's pretty much where it sits today, you know, other than just some stickers, little interior stuff. And then I have like some drift spares and whatnot. But just the way that I got this car, it was so cheap, it runs. I've had zero issues with it whatsoever. It has been more reliable than my Focus over there, which I've obviously had that car for way longer. But it's still, this car has been extremely reliable. I've daily driven it for quite a while, and I mean, it just handles anything. Like this thing, I've done several burnouts in it, drifted it. This thing, like, it's just amazing how owning a car with this much miles, and most cars just pretty much, you know, fall apart at this many miles, and this one is still clean, and it's still running fine. It is for sale, by the way. I do have to get rid of it. I don't really know when this video is going to be going up, but I'm moving, and I only have room for one car, and I have to take the Focus because that car has way more work into it. But this car was an absolute blast to own, and it was a completely life-changing car to own, just seeing this many miles and the engineering of the 1UZ. I mean, it sounds amazing, looks amazing. I don't know, this is one car that I would tell everybody, just you got to own one of these in your lifetime. Like, it is the perfect daily driver, and I love this spec too. It's got the white paint. Like, this paint is from 1995, and it has 427,000 miles, and it looks like this good. Like, I wouldn't call it pearl, but it's just nice cream metallic paint. And then I love the two-tone look. And then I did these stripes on the taillights, kind of make them look like candy cane lights. And it also has the rare gold badges, which when I saw that, when I got up to the car up close, I got really excited about that. I was actually missing this one, but I found one on eBay for a decent price, because people would steal these because they're actually gold-plated badges that Lexus put on here. You can see the gold badge there. I just absolutely love the gold badges. It just adds such a nice touch to it. But I mean, just getting to own a luxury car that was like $60,000 in 1995 for only $550 was an absolute steal. I mean, obviously for the miles and for the work it needed done to it, it wasn't far off from a fair price. Either way, from the amount of fun and the experience I've had from this car, it was more than worth it. And now that it's fixed up, I have to let it go, and I know that I'm going to regret it afterwards, but I don't really have a choice. But if you want my opinion on it, I would tell you that you have to own one of these. If you ever see a good deal on one, snatch it up. It has been an amazing car to own, and just the sheer engineering and like the 1995 luxury features of the whole thing, like it's such a fun car, and it's a great talking piece obviously for me because it has so many miles. But I even had neighbors, whenever I was out here working on it, they would drive by and they're like, "Is that the one that's been sitting down the street?" And then I was like, "Yeah, I bought it, fixing it up, it has 400,000 miles." And they're just like, no one just believes it until I show them the odometer on how many miles it is. And honestly, it's pretty hard to believe looking at the exterior condition of this car. I mean, the previous owners did an amazing job taking care of it. It was always taken care of at a Lexus dealership, always serviced at Lexus recommended intervals, and had all of that stuff done at the correct timing and done by a professional. So I mean, that's probably why it's still running today. If you take care of your cars, they'll last you a long time, especially when it's one of the most amazing cars ever designed. It's extremely comfortable. It even I mean, it has cruise control and just all kinds of features that, I mean, I don't mind driving this as opposed to any of the new cars I've driven. It is just an absolute amazing car to drive. It's just like a blast to drive around, go down the highway. I mean, it has plenty of power with the 1UZ V8 for how big it is. It doesn't feel sluggish at all. It's just a great car. I can't really put it into words, but you just have to drive one, have to own one to experience it. But having this many miles and getting to finally own one, I highly recommend it. And it is definitely something that you should try. It is a great car to build. There's a lot of people who drift them, and they're becoming more popular, so I assume the prices are going to go up. But from my experience, I absolutely loved it, and even with this many miles, it has still been an absolute blast. But that is pretty much it for this video. Please leave a like and subscribe, and follow me on Instagram at Nick Jernap if you want to see a little bit more about this car. But that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.